The Fox City Score chapter and WHBY are pleased to bring you Biz Talk, a chance for you to hear from entrepreneurs and professionals as they share their experiences from starting to sustaining growth. Learn the skills needed for your business to be successful. If you missed anything, you can catch the Biz Talk podcast at biztalkwithscore.com. And now from the Myron Construction Studio, it's Biz Talk on WHBY.
Good morning and welcome to Biz Talk with Score. I'm co-host this week, Terry Pinch, and with me is Bob Molitor. How are you doing, Bob?
Hey, great, Terry. Good morning. Happy holiday weekend.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to the cold weather and rain by the sounds of it, but you can't have everything. With that, we're going to get to our guests this week, and our guest is Jessy Servi Ortiz, the Managing Director of the Wisconsin Sustainable Business Council. Jessy, how are you today?
Hey, I'm doing great. Thanks so much for having me.
All right. So let's start with you first. Could you tell our listeners about yourself and how you got into this role?
Yeah. Hey, everybody. Nice to be with you today. My name is Jessy. I am the managing director. I have been in this role a little over 6 years. And like most sustainability professionals, I have somewhat of a diverse background. My formal training is actually in design. I graduated from the University of Minnesota, Twin Cities. And, I share that often because it's important from the standpoint of I think like a designer. And so it's actually was a really great education for me in sustainability. I also have sort of a formal background in permaculture, and I spent years sort of living and working on permaculture farms. So I have a personal passion for like agriculture and sustainable agriculture. And I actually grew up in a family of business. So both of my parents are entrepreneurs in the construction industry. And so I grew up, in Wisconsin, very connected to the outdoors and living and sort of breathing family business. I, started answering phones when I was 6 years old and worked all my summers, running errands for the construction company. And I say that is it's also important from the standpoint of it's sort of where my passion for business grew. And I found myself sort of having a very entrepreneurial spirit, but also very much, caring about the environment and sort of, social impact and wanting to make a difference. And so I actually ended up earning my MBA in 2013 from Alverno College. And I really focused on sustainable business management. And that really transitioned my career. I had my first sustainability job working for Outpost Natural Foods Co-op in the Milwaukee area. And that's where I started my official sustainability career. And, I was responsible for developing our sustainability program, for developing KPIs for the organization. And I was responsible for strategy, but I was the first sustainability professional, job that they had. So, as many sustainability professionals sort of find themselves in this position of, having to be leaders inside of an organization, it's a newer profession. So, it's exciting to see how much it's grown over the years.
Okay. So let's start right in on the Business Council. Tell us what the Wisconsin Sustainable Business Council is.
Yeah, so we call it WSBC for short because it is a mouthful to say the Wisconsin Sustainable Business Council. We really believe that sustainability is good business and good business is sustainable. So it's really our vision that all businesses are integrating sustainability into their operations. And so we help businesses with sustainability. We do that in a variety of ways. We're a membership organization, so businesses or individuals can join and get access to our programs, to our tools, to our resources, and to a great network of other professionals working on sustainability in their business. We also have our own program called the Green Masters Program, which I think I'll talk about a little more later in the show. But really, we also offer consulting. So we're really kind of a go-to resource for businesses for sustainability in the state. And I would say our core competency is really around developing and building sustainability programs for companies.
And you're a membership organization, correct? A nonprofit?
Yes, we are a nonprofit, and we are kind of act like an association in that way, right? So yes, we have business members. We have about 200 members currently. So we've actually been around for 16 years, and we transitioned in 2021 to a membership model. We actually grew out of the University of Madison. And so when our founder, Tom Eckert, retired, we kind of needed to look at our business model. And that's when we transitioned to a membership organization.
Okay. And just for listeners too, when these aren't just small companies too, there are some, but these are pretty well-known companies. I know Mercury was a member. I saw Oshkosh's, and there are many, many businesses that are members of this organization across Wisconsin.
Exactly. We are a statewide group. So, any size, any sector, any location. We get asked a lot if we can have members outside of the state. And we do have several businesses that aren't in Wisconsin that also access our programs and tools, or like have a sustainability person in Wisconsin that just wants access to that community of knowledge.
Okay. So as we get into this, can you define sustainability for us? What does it mean for our listeners?
Absolutely. It's a big word. It means a lot of things to a lot of people. The way we define it at the council is that it's the pursuit of business strategy that creates long-term stakeholder value by seizing opportunities and managing risks to a company's environmental and social impacts. So I'll break that down just a little bit, right? So it is a business strategy, right? So we're going beyond what we call sort of random acts of environmentalism to a more strategic approach to integrating sustainability. And it takes in stakeholder value, right? So we're looking beyond a traditional sort of shareholder model in business, and we're looking at who are the stakeholders of the business. That includes the employees, and it could include an ownership group. It includes customers. It includes the community in which you operate. It might include groups like us, in this case, the, NGOs or nonprofits in your community. So really, looking at who is all impacted by that business and how do you add value across those groups? So not just to the shareholders, but to that larger stakeholder group. And then sustainability is a lot about risk management. So looking at kind of, again, a long-term perspective in terms of risks. Climate risks is a part of that, but so are financial risks, so are transitional risks, so are just think about COVID, right? That was a huge risk to businesses that we want to help build resiliency for organizations. So it's about managing those risks, understanding those risks, and then also understanding what are the opportunities within those for, growth, for new products, for innovation. There's a lot of, I'll say, energy around sort of sustainable products in the marketplace today. So it really is a growth strategy for some businesses. And so we're looking at all of that through the lens of how does the business manage all of that and create long-term value, also while being able to share its environmental and social impact. So we're taking like a triple bottom line approach to business. So looking at the people, looking at the effect on the environment, as well as the financial bottom line for a company.
Hey, Jessy, that's a 20-foot view. Can you give me a good example of where you said, well, we had a success story here with whatever company it is? You don't have to name the company, but say we helped them with this particular idea or concept, and it was both sustainable and ended up both being profitable and beneficial for the company. Can you give me an example of something like that?
Yeah, absolutely. There's so many examples. And because, environment and social metrics look so different depending on size and sector, I'll give an example of energy because that's kind of relatable for folks, right? In the state of Wisconsin, we have a lot of manufacturers, right? So it's a large industry that we serve at WSBC. Energy is a material aspect to most manufacturers. When we say material aspect, we're talking about something that substantially affects the business that they have control over. So they control their energy use, right? So there's been several examples where, we've helped bring in an energy audit, looked at different tools and techniques for managing energy across the business. And just last week, actually, I had a conversation with a company, and they implemented a utility management program. And just through implementing that program alone, and instead of, just paying an energy bill across their facilities every month, they actually have a technology that's actually looking at and monitoring that data. Something that simple, they're able to save thousands and thousands of dollars on energy costs in their business. So again, that's just, kind of a simple example. And it's one aspect of sustainability that is, I think, relatable to many folks.
Yeah. In fact, when I was working in a plant in North Carolina, it was in fact, I think its 100th year birthday is this year. And it wouldn't be around now if they hadn't done some sustainability things. But one of the first things they did is this was a warren, an old textile mill, a warren of rooms and walls and darkness. In fact, when I first started, they fooled around with me, said, hey, there's a meeting at the back of the mill, which there was. Just walk out there and you'll get there. It took me 30 minutes to it was a 10 or 15 minute walk because I got lost everywhere. But anyhow, what they did is they started spending all this money tearing down walls, painting the walls that remained white, and putting in energy efficient lighting. And funnily enough, taking away a whole bunch of printers, which I was involved in doing, and having fewer computer printers. And the money we saved on printing and energy was far greater than we ever expected. Just by a little thing like that, made the place nicer, made it safer, and made it cheaper to run.
Yeah, that's another great example. I think of like daylighting, right? Like just having a window within a facility reduces the amount of lights you have to have, which again relates back to energy. But yeah, great example, Terry.
As we look at the WSBC as well, overall, could you talk just a little more? We mentioned it quickly, but how was the council founded at Madison?
Yeah, so our founder's name is Tom Eggert. He was a professor at UW-Madison, taught in the business school, and started teaching sort of, sustainability and economics courses back in the 90s. And he had a really unique approach because what he did is he built a relationship with the business community and invited the business community into the classroom to talk to students and to talk about like challenges that they were facing. And this kind of, concept of, how do we take care of the environment, started coming up frequently. And he eventually sort of moved into the Nelson Institute at UW-Madison, and started teaching sustainability classes. And in 2007 is when the council was officially formed. And he essentially, took a group of students and decided to plan a conference. And so the students planned our very first conference. It was held in 2008, actually at Epic. And at that conference, he called on the business community and said, is there a need for businesses in the state to form this council and talk about these issues and talk about, how are we addressing sustainability in our businesses? And several businesses came forward, and that's how the council was officially formed. I think you mentioned Mercury Marine, Land's End, Kohl's. I think, some of the larger headquartered businesses in Wisconsin have been, participating in WSBC since its inception, have used our programs to sort of build their sustainability programs. And now they're really sort of the leaders in the state. And so for the first decade, we were really sort of student-led, like students planned the conference, they developed our Green Masters program. And so there was this, great connection between sort of the future workforce and these businesses. And like I said, when Tom retired in 2019, that's when, I sort of took over and we, became a nonprofit. and transitioned to kind of a membership model. And we still have our conference, we still have our program, and we continue to sort of evolve our programming with sort of the general international corporate like standards around sustainability. There's been a lot going on in this space over the last several years.
Okay, we're going to take our first break. You're listening to Biz Talk with SCORE on WHBY. We'll be right back after this. Welcome back to Biz Talk with SCORE. Thanks for being here with us this morning. This week's guest is Jessy Servi Ortiz with the Wisconsin Sustainable Business Council, or as I will try to refer to it from now on, WSBC, given how long that one takes. Today we're talking about sustainability and how that impacts business and how WSBC can help businesses. But before we continue our conversation with Jessy, I have a couple questions for you. Do you want to start a business but don't know how? Do you want to improve or grow your current business? Do you have more questions about your business than time? A small business mentor from Fox City SCORE could be exactly what you need. SCORE is a national organization with over 200 chapters, and it's affiliated with the Small Business Administration. Your local Fox City chapter supports the 8-county area from Appleton to Fond du Lac and Wapaka to Montello. We have 35 volunteer members, each an expert in their field, offering entrepreneurs no cost and confidential mentoring in most aspects of business. You can learn more about Fox City SCORE by visiting our website at score.org/Fox Cities. There you'll find the resources that can help your business survive, thrive, and grow. Fox City SCORE is always looking for new members. Think about how much you've learned in your career and how helpful it would have been to have somebody with that experience mentoring you when you started out. If you want to pass that knowledge forward and want to make a difference in the community, go to that website, again, score.org/Fox Cities. Click on the volunteer button and fill out the short application. Remember, SCORE is a volunteer organization, and our experts do not charge for providing mentoring in all aspects of running a business. To get started, visit our website at score.org/Fox Cities.
Just, all of the sustainability and environmentally friendly, there are some pretty big terms. I guess from a standpoint, could you give a specific example? Maybe some of our listeners might say, well, I've got a business that might be able to use some of her expertise. Is there that you could give us specifically as saying, oh yeah, we did this for a company and it was in the field of waste or field of energy or specific observations that you could make on? Just give us an example.
Yeah, I mean, so there's so many examples. However, like the way that we interact with businesses isn't that we're not necessarily tracking all of that data, which is why it's a harder question for me to answer. The businesses themselves are tracking that data, right? So the ways at which businesses improve their sustainability metrics are like reducing waste to landfill, right? So we have several companies that have gotten certified zero landfill, which means that 90% of their waste is diverted from going to the landfill. It's either reused, repurposed, or it's been reduced in the first place, right? Reducing energy consumption or increasing efficiency in manufacturing facilities is another large example that we help customers a lot with. There's a lot of conversation around greenhouse gas tracking and measuring. So we're helping companies create strategies for reducing their overall greenhouse gas, right? So that could look like installing some level of renewable energy in their facility, or like Terry's example before in terms of efficiency, right? Like most people know these days that LED light bulbs are much more efficient, but there's still a lot of facilities out there that haven't made that transition. If you transition, a large facility from using incandescent bulbs to LED bulbs, you can save hundreds of thousands depending on the site specifically. So there's, water is another hot topic, right? So reducing fresh water. We'll help companies look at their processes in ways that they might be able to reduce the use of water in their process. So, these are kind of like examples of the way that we help businesses, not necessarily like really specific examples of like this company reduced by this X amount. So I hope that helps a little bit. In our program, in sustainability, we really look at a lot of metrics, right? So we're looking at environmental metrics, we're looking at social metrics, and we're looking at governance. And so the environmental side is definitely much easier to measure than some of the social sides. But another huge benefit of sustainability these days is workforce engagement, recruitment, retention. And so we see a lot of companies having much better engagement and turnover rates when they have a robust sustainability program that they're following.
And is there, years ago, there was economic assistance from focus on energy programs and things of that nature. Is that still a lot of government money? I shouldn't say government money, but funds available for this type of conversion and things like that?
Absolutely. Focus on Energy is an amazing program. They have incentives, they have rebates for industrial sites, for commercial sites, for home sites. So pretty much any type of operation, any type of business, whether you're a home-based business, a small retail shop, a large manufacturing facility, Focus on Energy has tools and resources. They'll come in, they'll do an audit for you, they'll help you gain access to dollars. The Inflation Reduction Act is also funneling a lot of money to a lot of different states. And I know the state of Wisconsin in particular has a clean energy plan. And so they're putting together a proposal for sort of decarbonizing the industrial sector. And so there's going to be a lot of money available for facilities to do energy improvement updates. Some of that's really simple, like changing out light bulbs, but some of it could be more technical, right? Like looking at other energy sources, looking at, how to reduce overall from efficiency, but then also how to gain other sources to try to reduce our consumption on fossil fuels.
So your expertise in this field can help clients direct them to those types of available funds, right?
Absolutely. So what we do is we really are kind of like a hub of resources, right? So you come to us, we'll have specific conversations about what your needs are, and then we'll help connect you to the resources specifically in those areas. So we're not necessarily the expert in, doing waste audits and getting you zero waste certified, but those are the resources that we have the connections with. So if that's the area of expertise that you have or that you need, that you're looking for, that are your goals within your company, we'll connect you to the people that can come in and support that.
Okay, we're at the spot for our next break. You're listening to Biz Talk with Score, and we'll be right back. Welcome back to Biz Talk with Score. Thank you for joining us again this week. Our guest is Jessy Servi Ortiz from the Wisconsin Sustainable Business Council, or WSBC. So as we continue with the discussion, Jessy, let's start talking through some of the programs that are offered by the WSBC so our listeners can understand the scale and scope of things you do. And the one I'd like to start with is the Green Masters program. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So the Green Masters program is a tool to help businesses define, prioritize, measure, and manage their performance in sustainability topics that are meaningful to them. So I know that's a mouthful, but it is a virtual program or a virtual tool that's sort of purpose built for businesses to be able to scope and grow their sustainability program. So it starts with what we call a materiality process in sustainability, which is a way for businesses to rank what's important to them in their business operations, as well as what's important to their defined groups. And once they do that, it creates a matrix for them that helps them list priorities. So our program overall has 15 topics in it. The categories are environment, society, workforce, and governance and leadership. And so what's really nice about our program and what's different about it from a lot of other programs out there is that it allows you to start with where you're at and grow your program over time. So you get to select how many priorities you're starting with. So on the environment side, that's, typically where a lot of people will start. The categories are energy, greenhouse gas management, sustainable transportation, water resource management, biological and ecological impacts, waste management, materials management, and product circularity and life cycle management. So you get to select which one of those is important to your business. I know you deal with a lot of small businesses. So really, if you're a small business and you're, a service industry, a lot of times we hear, well, what does that mean for us, right? So then you're really looking at your product and service and the sustainability of it and how you're delivering it, right? So transportation might actually be a material topic if you're, a consultant going out into, traveling around the state, meeting with clients. Water resource management is one that, like the paper industry, is very, is a very material topic to the paper industry. So the program helps companies really sort of define what metrics matter for them. And then there are three main components in it, which are systems development. So again, we take a very systematic approach to sustainability. We sort of believe everything's interconnected. And so the program itself helps companies develop systems for measuring, managing, improving those topics. So if water resource management is an important topic to your business, the Green Masters program is going to help you develop systems for how much water do you use every year? Do you have a water baseline? How much water are you reusing? How much are you, bringing into your facility? How much are you taking out of your facility? Those sorts of topics. There's also best practices in the tool. So it is like kind of an educational tool as well as a, like a scoring tool for companies so they could get ideas about things that they can do in each of those topics. And then it also has a performance component. So it's measuring your performance over your own goals. A couple unique things about the program is that it's a recognition program. So we celebrate successes in all levels of the program. And we recognize the Green Master program participants at our conference every year, which is in November. It's also a certification. So it's a way for businesses to be able to communicate to their customers or stakeholders that they're looking at sustainability from a business perspective. There's a lot of you might be familiar with product certifications, but this is really like a business certification. And so, it's a really great tool. There's a whole bunch of resources that help, but we kind of call it our self-serve program for businesses that really want to kind of dive into sustainability, understand what it means, and have it make sense for their organization.
Okay. And I know you have a few other courses too or services you offer. What about the sustainability services program? What's involved in that?
Yeah. So the Green Masters program is kind of what we call the self-serve model. It's very low cost, for businesses. The services side is if you need to go further faster, we offer consulting. So again, our core competency is in developing sustainability programs for companies. A lot of companies will come to us because their customers are requiring certain things of them that they don't necessarily understand. And we help them make sense of all of that. And so, that's anything from greenhouse gas management to developing defensible sustainability goals, to, connecting them to other resources like energy audits or waste audits, or certification programs. So our services are kind of, full service. If we don't do the work, we help find somebody that can do the work for you. So that's the service side of what we offer.
And I noticed on LinkedIn, I think you were involved for quite a while in the Women in Sustainability Network.
Yeah.
Could you talk about that a little bit and how you guys support that and what it is?
Yeah. So actually, when I was on the board for the Wisconsin Sustainable Business Council, actually we just had our 10th anniversary for the Women in Sustainability Network. It was a lot of men, and I was a young woman professional that wanted to connect with more women in the field. And so a fellow board member and I, Lisa Giesenbauer, just started a sort of informal networking group with women working in the space to kind of talk about issues. We also were really eager to talk about more of the social side of sustainability, where we had been in jobs that had a very environmental focus. And so that sort of the Women in Sustainability group allowed us to sort of fulfill that need. So what we do now is we host an International Women's Day event every year. We have a listserv where we share resources and jobs in sustainability. We do this thing called Women in Sustainability circles every spring, which are like mentoring circles and networking circles. So we have a circle host, and there's a group of women that meet every week over a certain period of time. We do like wellness events. This June, we're having a breathwork event. So, just kind of looking at how do we take care of ourselves in this field, as well as, just networking and being with other folks who are interested in caring about sustainability, talking about it. And we're not exclusive, but we mostly are women.
And I know there's other networking too, but I wanted to get some a chance to talk a little bit about the conference, because you mentioned it. That was really how the WSBC started in 2007-8 timeframe. But can you tell us about the conference today and how it works? And I know I think it's in the fall this year coming up.
Yeah, so typically November. This year we're November 13th. We'll be in Milwaukee at the Harley Davidson Garage and Museum. Our conference is kind of special because we call it a business-to-business conference. So we don't really allow consultants to come and speak. It's really businesses sharing their successes, their challenges, their best practices, like their innovations. What are they working on? This is our 17th annual conference this year, and we just gather to talk about all of these different issues and help businesses. It's really an educational event, to help them learn how to implement sustainability across the topics in their business.
Okay, so now in the time remaining in this segment, I want to switch directions and talk about sustainability and how it impacts small businesses. So very first question, why should small businesses even think about this with all the other things they have going on?
Yeah, I think small businesses are in a unique opportunity to have a great impact. I did look at the numbers of this, and it's interesting to me. We actually 35% of our membership is 25 employees or less. So it's definitely an area of concern for small businesses. I think small businesses are in the position where they're a lot of times more value driven and value based. And so they get to incorporate some of this into the way that they do business. I think it's an opportunity to connect with their customers. If they aren't organizing around sustainability, but are interested in it, maybe asking their customers if their customers care, and maybe they do and maybe they don't. But it's, I think, an opportunity for small businesses for sure.
Okay. And we talked a little bit about this earlier, but one of the first things that I always hear on this topic is, but it costs a lot. So can we go back again and talk about, are there trade-offs between cost and sustainability?
We hear this a lot, and a couple of things we say is like, if you're not profitable, you're not sustainable, right? Like finances are a very integral and sustainable part of a business. But most of the time when you're doing sustainability right, the intention is it saves you money, right? It's looking at efficiencies. It's looking at reducing wastes. And that's across processes, across products, it's creating efficiencies. we really look at sustainability as a continuous improvement journey. So how are you constantly improving your processes? I think that's equally more important for a small business because you have less resources available to you to begin with. In the energy example I gave earlier, again, we see companies saving lots and lots and lots of money, especially in the area of energy efficiency. There's just so much waste that if you don't measure, you don't even know that you're wasting it. And that's true for small businesses as well as large.
Hey, Jessy, you're talking about, is it a membership fee based on size of the company? So if it's a larger company that requires maybe more attention that you have to spend there, is the membership across the board the same, or is it based on rate scales? And then also when you go out to see somebody, you make a pitch to them, then you have to come back with, they say, well, our membership program would allow this. It seems kind of, just maybe explain that a little bit.
Yeah, our membership is in fact based on company size. So for a business of 25 employees or less, it's $300 a year. We have a scale up to, I think it's $1,500 for a company that has over 1,000 employees. So that's the highest level, right? So again, we really want to make sustainability accessible for businesses.
Well, with those rates, you certainly can. Yeah, that's more than reasonable.
It really is. And again, it's kind of a self-serve model. Like we provide, so our tagline is educate, measure and improve and connect. So we provide education. So we have ongoing, tours, networking events, opportunities for collaboration. We have monthly webinars on different sustainability topics. All of those are recorded and saved in the member portal, so you don't have to necessarily watch them live. The measure and improve is access to Green Masters, right? So we really want companies measuring metrics in each of these areas, and then again, focusing on that continuous improvement process. And then a lot of members are members because they want to be a part of a community, right? They want, sustainability is a hard and a big topic. And so just having the camaraderie, the connection to other people to brainstorm, to say, hey, what's working for you? Hey, we tried this waste reduction program and we have these challenges. What are you seeing? People get a lot of value out of that, very specific kind of, connection. So we have working groups on specific topics, all of that sort of included with the membership.
And how would you recommend that a small business get started on developing and making their organization more sustainable?
Yeah, I mean, you have to start with where you're at, right? You have to start with looking at what are the aspects that matter most to us, but also that we have control over. Is there a particular sector that you serve frequently at SCORE, or is it?
We get a fair bit of retail, some manufacturing too, but that's across the gamut.
Yeah, great. Well, so retail is a great example because, a lot of times they have a physical building and a space. So, looking at packaging, right? How are you getting in material that you're putting in your retail environment? How are you sending out? So waste tends to be an important topic. Energy tends to somewhat be stagnant, and also a lot of retail spaces are leased spaces, so they don't have a lot of control over that. So that might not be a material topic. But circularity, what are the products you're actually offering your customers, and what is the sustainability of those products themselves? So just in terms of getting started, thinking about which of those topics are important to your business, that's sometimes the hardest part, honestly, is figuring out what to pay attention to. But when you decide, you have to start measuring it, right? So, I talked about the waste. So measuring your waste streams is really important, because then you can say to your customers, hey, look, we're actually, recycling 90% of all of the material that comes into our store. Customers love that. They want to hear that. They want to know that type of information these days. And so being able to measure those things is also really important part of the process. And then from there, you can, set goals. Where do you, we kind of talk about it in terms of current state, future state, okay, you have your measurement in sustainability talk. We create a baseline year, which is like a year where you have like the first year of quality data. So from your baseline, where do you want to go from here? Like some companies decide they want to be net neutral or zero waste or, carbon free. I mean, these are kind of all jargony terms, but or that might not matter that much. You just want to be able to have good customer retention, which is an equally important metric to measure.
So, well, I guess obviously one way a small business could start too is spend $300, join the WSBC and maybe the Green Masters program, maybe talking to you and other people on the staff and getting some ideas of where to go is an obvious opportunity to really think through this too.
Yeah, absolutely. We have kind of like some checklists too, right? So how to get started. We have checklists for that we provide members. Again, there's a whole plethora of resources depending on the sector that they're serving.
Okay. And we're probably at the best spot to take our last break. You're listening to Biz Talk with Score on WHBY, and we'll be right back. I'd like to thank the sponsors and donors who bring Biz Talk with Score to you each weekend. We couldn't present Biz Talk without their generous support. Thank you to Hailing & Associates. Hailing & Associates helps small businesses and individuals not just prepare tax returns, but plan for taxes, thereby helping you minimize taxes for this year and beyond. Hailing & Associates, personal connection, positive results. A special thank you to the Business News for promoting our program in the biweekly business newspaper serving Northeast Wisconsin. If you aren't already subscribing to the Business News, you should. The paper is delivered biweekly and contains relevant and useful information about the business community in Northeast Wisconsin. We would also like to recognize the David L. and Rita E. Nelson Fund within the Community Foundation for the Fox Valley region for their generous donation in support of BizTalk and Fox City Score. So thanks to our sponsors and donors. We are adding one more later this year and maybe a second, and really do appreciate all the work the sponsors do for us. So with that, we're going to turn back to Jessy. And Jessy, could you tell our listeners how to contact the WSBC?
Absolutely. Our email is simple. It's wisconsinsustainability.com, or you can just Google Wisconsin Sustainability and you will find us. And my email is just Jessy, my first name, Jessy, at wisconsinsustainability.com. So feel free to reach out.
Okay. So as you look back at your 2.5 years in the current role as managing director, and you think about where WSBC is today, what are you thinking about for the future?
Yeah, we really want all businesses doing sustainability. We want to make it accessible and easy. We've been having conversations with the state on how to, scale the work across the state a little bit wider. So that's an exciting conversation. We're also taking our Green Masters program outside of the state. So we've been rolling that out to different associations, kind of as a recognition program for a few industries. So that's exciting. I would love to see Wisconsin, be a thriving economic place for business. And I think sustainability is a big part of that. I think it is kind of the way of the future and not really a nice to have, but it's going to become more and more a must have. So again, we just want to continue to be that resource for businesses across the state, no matter your size or your sector.
Okay. And you mentioned earlier that about 45% of your members are small businesses. In the last minute or so, what kind of resources are available to help small businesses? Again, some specific ones that you offer that you think a small business should consider.
Yeah, I think the Green Masters program is a really great place to start because it helps you really define what those what areas to focus on. we have a plethora of tools and resources depending on what your topic areas are. But I would say, you can't really measure what you don't, you can't really manage what you don't measure. So just start by kind of measuring the areas that are important to you as a business.
Okay. So, awful lot of areas to cover within sustainability, and we do really appreciate you coming on and talking to us, because people hear a lot of different things about sustainability, and it's nice to hear a little bit more detail about it and what the facts of it are, because yes, there are some always controversial areas, but the fact of the matter is most of sustainability is common sense type of activities. So we really do appreciate having you come on to the show and talk about it.
Yeah, absolutely. It does make good business sense. And at the end of the day, it's about valuing your workforce and the communities that you serve and just leaving our communities better than we found them.
All right. Well, once again, thank you very much. And for our listeners, if you want to hear this episode, it'll be out on our website, biztalkwithscore.com, in a few weeks. And you will find the last 5 years or so of BizTalk. We've been on the air now for 23 years. But our podcast is out there since 2018, so we're already up to 6 years. So thank you all for listening again, and we will talk to you next week. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.